In his day, Johann Sebastian Bach was known as a pretty good organist, but that was about it. His compositions weren't really well received. It wasn't until 79 years after his death when Felix Mendelssohn performed Bach's St. Matthew Passion on March 11th, 1829, and people just lost their minds and couldn't get enough Bach. Kind of the same story for Galileo. He had some pretty innovative ideas, which ultimately turned out to be spot on, but the culture and the environment at the time just wasn't having any of it. They weren't ready to receive those ideas. We see similar stories with people like Leonardo da Vinci, Charles Babbage, Alan Turing, Albert Einstein. Sometimes we say these people were just ahead of their time. But there's a key lesson here for us in our own organizations. Just having good ideas isn't the secret cheat code to all our wildest innovation dreams. Innovation exists within a system, and we're talking good old systems theory here. We might have a creative idea, but we also have our corporate culture, our organization's risk tolerance, our resource availability, our time, our ability to grow and nurture ideas. We also have to consider our external environment as part of our system. Would our customers find value in this idea? How might our competitors imitate the idea? Look, anyone can come up with an idea, but how can we help our organizations come up with the most valuable ideas? Welcome to another episode of That's Innovation. In this episode, we're going to talk about creativity. Now, if you're following along this series in sequence, so far we've talked about process, strategy, and idea management. We've covered those things first on purpose. We want to begin with a good understanding of our particular ecosystem and then be able to focus our creativity into ideas that have the best chance of progressing our strategy within that system. Think creativity is just for the artists and musicians of the world? Think again. No, really, science says so. Well, hello, class. In today's lesson, we're taking a deep dive into creativity. Where do we find it, and how do we harness its immense power? Most organizations try really hard to optimize process and become efficient, which spawns things like standardization and templates. Good for efficiency, but this mindset ends up working against creativity sometimes. In innovation terms, we often talk about a mix between exploit and explore. We can exploit our existing capabilities to keep on keeping on, or we might want to explore new things. Organizations with more mature innovation practices will have certain ratios of exploit-explore defined through budgets, strategy, and organizational structure. As you progress with your innovation efforts, you'll want to help your leadership figure out a good mix for your organization. Another component of creativity and exploration is the concept of slack. No, not that slack. Slack in organizational terms is extra resources, maybe budget, time allocation, headcount, that are above and beyond the bare minimum required for business as usual. Going back to the 1960s, studies have shown a positive correlation between slack and innovation. And that makes sense because when everyone is 100% deployed on business as usual, no one has time or the motivation to think of anything new. If this sounds like an excuse for waste, well, some argue that it is. But consider this, we use the term slack in project management to represent extra time built into the schedule to account for unexpected things or new opportunities that might crop up. Why shouldn't we use this same thinking for our future? In the 1950s, Alex Osborne proposed rules for brainstorming. Get a group of people together in a room, come up with ideas no matter how crazy. The only problem is research has shown that this doesn't work so great for really creative ideas. One challenge is groupthink, which is when people together tend to gravitate towards the same thinking. Some research has shown that creativity and brainstorming actually work better with people working remotely. When people work alone, their ideas tend to diverge, but when they're working together, they converge. Because we're generally non-confrontational and want to get along and be agreeable. So if you find yourself in a distributed organization, don't think that you can't brainstorm. In fact, distance may be your secret weapon. Did you know that highly diverse teams tend to be more creative? Different ethnic, socioeconomic, and educational backgrounds bring different experiences and insights to the creative process, which then inspires further ideation. And don't forget about recruiting different personality types: introverts, extroverts, pragmatists, dreamers, you name it. The more variety you can get into your innovation efforts, the better. If you're trying to prototype some process, device, or application, don't worry about making it professional and pretty. It's actually better to create low-resolution, rough prototypes when trying to get feedback. When someone is seeing a prototype for the first time that's a polished, pixel-perfect creation, two things usually happen in the mind of the person you're asking for feedback. Either they think, wow, they really spent lots of time and effort on this thing, I don't want to hurt their feelings by saying anything negative. Or, well, it seems like they already know what they want to create, they don't need my input. Rough, unfinished designs tend to elicit more open and honest feedback. People see it as easier to change and more flexible. Additionally, that rough prototype represents a concept snapshot, and when lined up over time can help show your stakeholders the tangible evolution of your ideas. You might have heard of design thinking. It's got plenty of hype and attention, and just like Agile or Lean, it gets lots of press, but usually it's superficial at best. The idea behind design thinking is to better empathize with the customer. I've seen firsthand how design thinking can really help companies improve their customer journey and significantly increase the value and utility they provide to customers. For example, a nonprofit was able to leverage a cloud-based service for real-time language translation, removing a barrier between their employees and their customers who spoke a different language. And I've also seen cases where organizations do little more than design thinking theatrics and just come away with a wall full of sticky notes. Similar to Agile or Lean, it's all in how you buy into the philosophy and whether you're willing to put in the hard work and make the uncomfortable decisions. It also helps to have an experienced facilitator, at least in the early days. Design thinking isn't some miracle breakthrough. The components have been around forever, and we can use some of these components to help elicit some creativity in our own organizations. One good resource you might find helpful is the Design Thinking Methods Catalog. This website is full of various activities and processes to provide some structure and framework for creative ideation. Another free resource that I like is from the Stanford D School called the Design Thinking Bootleg Deck. It's a set of cards in PDF form chock full of design thinking tips, methods, and tools that you can use. In a bit here, I'm going to show you how to generate some ideas relatively quickly using the 6-3-5 method. It can be done in an in-person group setting, and we can also do it completely online. To do it online, we just need some cloud-based Kanban tool like Asana, Jira, or Trello, or even just a cloud-based whiteboard like Microsoft Whiteboard, Mira, or Google's Jamboard. In this demo, I'm going to show you how you can employ the 6-3-5 method for brainstorming with remote teams. 6-3-5 is short for 6 people writing 3 ideas each in 5 minutes. Then we swap those ideas with another person who adds on to those original ideas for another 5 minutes, and so forth. You can use any real variation. There's nothing magical about 6 people or 5 minutes. If we're doing this in person, we might use sheets of paper, but to do it virtually, all we need is some shared workspace. I'm going to be using Trello, but you can also use Asana, Jira, Microsoft Whiteboard, Google Jamboard, whatever. We'll create a new board. We'll be brainstorming on employee engagement. We'll start by creating columns for our participants. For this example, I'm just going to use 5 participants. Now we can invite our participants to this board via a link. Once our participants are signed into the board, we'll give them the instructions. In 5 minutes, create 3 ideas as cards under your respective column. And let's start our 5-minute timer. Okay, at the end of 5 minutes, everyone should have 3 ideas. You can see mine here. Provide a free class pass to the yoga studio in town. Hold a virtual employee talent contest. Have a bring your pet to work day. The other participants weren't very imaginative here, but you get the idea. Now for round 2, we rotate. I will focus on Thomas's list. Thomas will go to Avro's list, Nancy to Jennifer's list, Jennifer to my list. The objective for this round is for the next person to think on the ideas and add their own spin, suggestion, or twist to the original idea. Okay, so in this demo, I'm playing the part of everyone, so bear with me here. Maybe Jennifer is wondering if virtual yoga classes are a thing. For round 3, we rotate again. Nancy would move to my list, Jennifer would move to Thomas's list, and so on. And we'd repeat this process until everyone rotated around the other lists. We could then review the ideas and flag the ones that we might want to follow up on. So with this method, we were able to generate 75 ideas in 30 minutes. Now, of course, not all the ideas will be great, but if only 10% are, that's 7 or 8 ideas more than we had 30 minutes ago. This is the 6-3-5 method. If you're playing along at home, here's something to try. Why not dig into some of these design thinking tools and see how you might put some of the science of organizational creativity to work for you? Maybe try out one of the brainstorming methods against some problem in your next team meeting. Have remote team members? No problem. The cloud can help you there, as we've seen. Now go forth and innovate. And that, my friends, is all for this episode. If you like what you're seeing so far, do be sure to like and subscribe if you're not already. Thanks for watching. I'm Scott Pletcher, and that's innovation.